Did you check during the break to see if Trump is president yet? I guess the story would be that Nancy Pelosi would be president because
Because that's how the Constitution works, that they proclaim to love.
last night, I think Biden was supposed to resign in disgrace, and Harris was supposed to go along with him, and just go, "Me too. This is stupid. I don't want to even be here anymore. I'm living a lie."
I don't want to be vice president. It's like this.
They both have acute attacks of imposter syndrome and keel over, and then they go, Trump is immediately going to be president again. Absolutely. Never mind the fact that the Constitution would actually put Nancy Pelosi in charge during this period of change, and she would arrange the next election, wherein we would have another election, and I guess at that point, I think the Florida and then most of the South would have cracked off and floated out to sea while it burst into flames out of rage that Nancy Pelosi was in charge of everything. But this should come as no surprise to anybody that it didn't and isn't happening. What is happening is that Joseph Robinette Biden is still the president of the United States and will be so for either the next 7 years or the rest of his life, whichever comes first. And you know what I mean? Like, and while all that nonsense last week is happening about Trump really still being president, yada yada, the reality of the presidency still exists. Trying to get Americans vaccinated, trying to get us out of Afghanistan, which is happening. And considering how this was going for so long, the fact that it's happening so fast points to the fact that as we were training people over the years, in many ways we were continuing to, and this was a concern of some of the generals, but not the loudest ones, that we were actually training the people that would eventually fight against us. And this is a problem that has occurred not just for the United States, it's happened for other countries as well. I mean, this is a tale as old as time, is that you move in and train a military until they are strong enough to take over your country, right? There's a lot of countries that have done that, like they moved in, tried to build up a society, a military, and then they're like, yeah, we like it. Now we don't like you anymore. And then they kick them out. We were never there to technically build this. We were there because Al-Qaeda was in Afghanistan. We were trying to diminish their ability to be successful there. We supposedly were successful in doing that. Al-Qaeda is certainly not the force it was in 1999, 2000. And the rest of the issue comes from, on the one hand, do we belong there? Do we belong anywhere where, we're not, we don't own the territory, where it's not our country? And anywhere that someone, just because a government asks us to come there. Do we go, especially when it comes to military force? It'd be one thing if it's, the aid that we could give to a country to build this. Hold on, I'm getting dings, which is quite lovely. Hey, I'll get into it later, because if I even mention it, Johnny and I will veer off into Kiss Nerd land, and it will never end. But by the way, Vegas residency. The problem we have with Afghanistan, there's two primary issues. The primary one, I would say, is Afghanistan actually a country? The lines that were largely drawn, were drawn by the Bell maps, Gertrude Bell, the British woman who is I don't know why more women's rights activists don't sing her praises as sort of a strong and powerful woman. Literally mapped most of those territories. A lot of the Middle East was mapped using the Bell maps. They even said in, I want to say in, I forget what movie it was in. Maybe it was Lawrence of Arabia or one of those where somebody says, one of the privates in the army says, we're using the Bell map. Like, where's the border? Here it is. We're using the Bell maps. And they go, I hope he's right. And they never correct him that it was a she, that Gertrude Bell was the woman who did this. So many people wanted Gertrude Bell dead that when she moved back home, she had a huge estate, but she slept in her guest house at the front of the property so that if the people came to kill her, it would just kill her and not the rest of the family. Amazing story. Incredible woman. Whatever your feelings about the mapping of the territory in the Middle East and the British expansion into that area, it doesn't take away from the fact that she's an extraordinarily strong woman in history. But the dividing lines on those things, especially in the nomadic tribal regions, just makes no sense. The United States came about because over time borders were set up on states as they continued to be added territorially, where they basically were stopping lines more than they were starting lines for the borders. What they did in the Middle East in large part was create starting lines. Like from here to there, we don't even know what's in it, but from here to there, this is now what is the Afghanistan territory. And treating it, you have this kind of Eddie Izzard moment about, do you have a flag? That goes on in, now that someplace has a flag, they're a country. And that's not necessarily true either. And Afghanistan, like Iraq in many ways, and like possibly, the Persian Iran versus the modern Muslim Iran could be two separate countries, right? I mean, the Iran separation is actually much more akin to American separations, North and South. It's more, personality and socially based than it is an actual, warring factions. As much as people might think we're in, we live in the, a Congolese civil war. We do not. But in terms of Afghanistan, it's almost an area of like a no man's land when it was originally designed. But it sort of trapped the folks that were in it between, Pakistan and Russia and Iran, and all of those areas. It was sort of like trade routes and desert between those places, and then it became a place basically for drug traders to grow poppies, and pharmaceutical companies to get their opium for legit opioids. So that essentially is, you've got a resource and land problem. And then you also have the illusion of a country. And Russia had this problem, and Afghanistan is having this problem. Because look at the Afghan government. The Afghan government is having the same problem that the Russians had and the US had and whoever else had. That conquering Afghanistan in the traditional sense, taking your form of government, your form of society, and enforcing it on them, is not possible in that region, not because there is an overwhelming societal depth there, but because there's so many tribal factions and there's so much disagreement. The Taliban itself is a loosely knit idea as well. Many of the capital regions and the rural areas that are being taken by quote unquote Taliban that's just where they get their weapons. It's not necessarily that that they would care either way, or that there's a sort of, the Taliban kind of creates in people's minds this brotherhood of Afghan men, right? That's what you picture in your head, that it's all these guys with just stacks of Tony Stark's weapons in the mountains someplace. It's all guys, and they're all unified in their belief systems, and it just isn't. And the structure of how we deal with these kind of extraordinary historical shifts in an area do not take into account the fact that this is largely tribal, that there are multiple tribes there, multiple groups there, And not all of them want to consider Pakistan legit or the Iranian border legit. The contested regions in northern Pakistan are related to that. So this problem we're having in Afghanistan is a problem that is there and will be there until one tribe or another in Afghanistan ultimately rises to the top of them and unifies the country in some sort of Qin dynasty, Chinese unification of the entire area. I don't see any reason strategically, environmentally, or structurally, or economically for that to happen, because none of them are linked by anything. So getting out now versus 2 years from now, 6 months from now, 10 years from now, it's going to look the same, because the Afghan government is trying to conquer the rest of the country, that space that is Afghanistan, the same way the Russians and the Americans did, or however you want to look at it, over time, the Romans, I don't know, the North Africans. Anybody who tried to capture it is capturing, they're herding cats. That's the reality of the tribal beliefs down there. And it's not like taking over a territory where, like, okay, this is the region you want and everywhere else, it is useless. It's all got sparse pieces of useful and useless, and none of it is cohesive. So anyways, we got to take a break. I know I went way over on that last one, but my point overall,
crunchy cheese.
I understand. My point overall is that there is no there in Afghanistan. And that's why it's never been conquered. That's my feeling. I'd love to hear from callers 773-763-9278. And of course, have you been vaccinated? Are you still got somebody in your life that you're trying to talk into getting vaccinated? What's their story? What are they waiting for? Is it some, redneck NASCAR fan who's talking about the Tuskegee Airmen? I want to know. We'll talk to you after the break. We'll be back.